Firstly, a big thank you to REVA, Dr. Raju and Dr. Abhi for having me here. My name is Deep Thomas, and I represent the Aditya Birla Group. For those of you who don't know the group, it's one of the largest conglomerates in the country with a legacy of over 150 years, spread across multiple sectors, from cement to textiles to telco to financial services to fashion to solar to insulators to fertilizers and mining and many more businesses. I think one thing besides the rich legacy that we have is also the richness of data. And what I wanted to share with you are some examples, not specific from ABG, but some examples of what data-driven innovation could mean to us. My presentation would probably take around 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll save 5 minutes for questions. All right? So, if we could make this work. All right. So the first slide essentially talks about companies that are commanding very high valuations. I think what you see in this slide is a cumulative valuation of over multi-trillion dollars. But what is important to note here is, regardless of the business models that each of these companies are following, whether it's a freemium model or a premium model or a marketplace model, the heart of each of these companies is data, right? And the heart of each of these companies is disruptive technologies, one of which is AI, which is sitting on top of the data to help create new business models, new revenue streams, and significantly strong opportunities of scale, of intimacy, of intelligence, which the competitors cannot. So what we see now is the emergence of tech players that are riding the wave of data and AI. And what we'll talk about are the examples of some of these applications, looking at not these, but some of the others which are again valued at $50 billion plus, and how they're seemingly using data analytics for their advantage. Right? But the story here is four important trends that has led to a data deluge. The first one, of course, is the fast depreciation of the hardware cost. What used to cost us hundreds of dollars to store a terabyte of information could be now stored for less than $10. It's now possible to have an enterprise-grade storage capacity costing you less than 500 rupees for storing terabytes of information. So storing data is really, really cheap. Second, of course, is the proliferation of open source. A lot of software which gives you the same brute strength, same processing capacity as would be in case of the legacy software. Third is connectivity, whether it is man, machines, materials. The world is connected through the world of IoT, wearables, and what have you. And of course, with the last one very recently is the digital. So the entire ecosystem of humans and machines and humans with machines essentially is resulting in massive amount of information exhaust. And the last one, but not the least, is the cloud computing, which allows every single enterprise, whether they're small, medium-sized, or large, to have the same level of complexity, scalability, flexibility that a large organization used to have with the amount of money they used to spend in their IT budget. So these four has essentially resulted in a massive push towards the generation of information, and that's what we call it as big data. And what that to us means essentially is that everything is generating data, which means if it is data, it is quantifiable, because data now can be quantified in zeros and ones. If it can be quantified in zeros and ones, it means it is programmable, which means every single decision that you're making can be done through algorithms, and hence everything in the world gets connected and every single business becomes digital. And what I mean by digital is that it's not only a business model, it's not only a strategy, it's about the combination of digitization, which is the aspect of connecting everything, and datafication, which is the harnessing of this data through various technologies, which is resulting in value and innovation. And we'll touch upon some of these, but what you see and what you've heard from previous speakers and what you'll hear for the rest of the day are the emergence of various technologies, whether it is AR, VR, blockchain, cybersecurity, AI, neural networks, behavioral models, electromagnetic vibrations. All of these are various technologies that are available to us. And when it comes to AI, what matters to us is the application and the impact of this to businesses. And when you ask an MD, what is it that they would expect from an AI? I think their answers to the questions will be very simple. As long as, for them, it doesn't really matter what AI could do, For them, what matters is, as long as they have a solution that can increase revenues, as long as they have a solution which can reduce their OPEX, as long as they have a solution which can help them mitigate risk, and as long as they have a solution which can improve customer experience, they would take any solution any given day. And on top of that, if they have a solution which can also create new business revenue opportunities and create new business models to help them diversify, they would love it even more. So the good news is AI can actually have an impact on all of these. And we look at a few examples of each and every aspect of how AI is creating innovation and impacting top line and bottom line for businesses, through best practices. Let's look at the first one, which is revenue enhancements. I'm giving examples of two organizations. One is Directv and the other is Trulia. Here's the example of Directv, which is partnered with an external data player. Here in this case is the USPS, where they're using this information to help identify the right customers that they want to target for offering Directv services. Now, Directv, which is essentially offering content through satellite, identifies new customers as the ones which are likely to move. For them, it was difficult to identify these customers other than the ones who are the existing customers which are moving. But partnering with USPS, which are typically the go-to organizations, the logistics company where any new individual goes to when they're looking at moving, was an important data point for Directv to identify who are the ones who are likely to move. And lo and behold, they use this information, come up with the right set of packages to provide offers which helps them increase the conversions and helps their revenues. On the other side, you have an example again in the real estate sector, Trulia. Now, Trulia is big into real estate, and through their market research, they identified that women with families with small kids or young women were more worried about crime before they made a decision on where to move. What they did, again, was to partner with open APIs and location-based services to create a product which essentially gives you crime index for every single zip code in US, which was then made available to people that are looking at purchasing homes through their real estate company. This product innovation allowed the consumers to have an extra level of comfort to do their due diligence before they made a decision in terms of deciding which home to rent or buy and so on and on. Again, two innovations through a partnership with external data ecosystem, which has significantly improved the revenue stream for these businesses. Right. The second example is operational expense. So you've got the top line covered. Now let's look at the bottom line. Operational expense. So this is an example of UPS, one of the largest logistics company in the world, with a total revenue of over $70 billion, operating over 200 different countries, with over 100,000 trucks, probably 200,000 truck drivers. They probably do over 20 to 30 million packages a day, and similarly clock 20 to 30 million miles, a day. Now for them, the biggest cost, of course, is the fuel cost, the cost to run the operation. And the next big important deliverable for them is also SLAs. How quickly does my stuff reach a particular destination, non-perished state, and what is my lowest cost for a particular product to go, for a particular package to go from point A to point B. And what they've done is used all forms of information, now whether it is behavior of the truck drivers, routes, information about the performance of the vehicle, looking at information on location, trips, types of packets, number of packages in different locations to arrive at various forms of optimization routines. One, to just optimize the route. The other, to optimize the combination of the package and the type of the trucks. Optimize the combination of the truck drivers, the package, the type of truck, and the route that they would follow. All of this essentially helping them run one of the most nimble logistics company in the world. And there's a reason why their stocks are an all-time high, and they're currently valued over $75 to $80 billion. That's the second example. Let's look at the third example, which is customer experience. So the happiest place in the world, we would all say, is one of the theme parks run by Disney. Here's an example of the emergence of various technologies, again using the power of data and technologies to create personalized, curated experiences. What you have in Disney's case is an example of three things. They have the apps, they have the magic bands, and they have the priority pass. And all of this is capturing information pertaining to people's taste, when it comes to the type of rides, their preferences in terms of the lodging, their preferences in terms of the food, their preferences in times of the day, the amount of time that they have to create a personalized, curated field experience or the park experience for them, essentially to help create the best possible experience for them. Now, whether it is just looking at planning your entire day from ride number 1 to ride number n, and what would be the optimal way for you to get the max out of the rides so that you experience the rides that are most coveted by you, or looking at a package of interactions with the characters and the type of food that you would like. All of this is being captured through the combination of apps, the wearable devices, for Disney to give you a personalized experience. All right. Let's look at the next one. Banks, are the ones which are exposed to maximum amount of risk, whether it is enterprise risk, operational risk, fraud risk, financial risk, and what have you. And again, there's a combination of a lot of external data and a lot of internal data that is being used. Now, whether it is their own transaction information, whether it is social media feeds, news feeds, performances of suspicious activity reports and cross-border, all of these pieces of information is used to look at various aspects of enterprise-level risk management, operational risk management, and so on and on. The next example is that on litigation. Again, those are the four top line and bottom line, but more importantly, as industry is moving towards global footprints, it's equally important for them to understand the implications of setting up new businesses. I beg your pardon. Yeah, setting up new businesses and understanding the contours of the litigations in each of these countries. Here again, U.S. Legal industry in itself is over $250 billion. And this is an industry which has got, corpus of information, whether it is, with patents, with litigations, with lawyers, with various nuances of policies and procedures pertaining to different court cases, judges, plaintiffs, litigants, and what have you. And all of this information, again, is being mined to help corporates, whether it is small and medium enterprises or large corporates, to just understand, what is the possibility of a particular litigation to be in their favor. What's the likelihood for a particular lawsuit to happen should these be the practices? What are the what are the things that are potential pitfalls? What could be the response to the jury or the judge when it comes to a particular case? Looking at again all the historical information pertaining to prior litigations. The next one is in the space of innovation. What we talked about is just value, which is driven through AI. Value in terms of revenue, cost, experience, risk, or even protecting the assets and protecting against any potential litigations. Now we move into valuations. What could the organization do in the spirit of innovation to help diversify and create new business models? The first one is in new product development. Every organization aspires to build something new, something which is closer to the customer, something which creates a unique and distinctive advantage, for its consumers. This is an example from Nippon, again, a fairly large, paints company. And here they've used a combination of disruptive technologies, again, a combination of AR, VR, apps, to capture different aspects of what consumers are saying when it comes to paint. They create booths which give them digital immersions in terms of the different types of paints pertaining to their taste clusters, their personal lifestyle. Use that information along with apps to give them various combinations of paints, add certain backdrops of homes, and use what we call it as a virtual color code index, which then allows the consumers to try and test different combinations of the paint and how it would look, and the renditions of how it would look for their homes. And that information is then is being fed to Nippon to be able to identify at a location level, at a consumer segment level, what are the kind of interests, preferences that consumers have, which then gets fed into the R&D department to help arrive at the new patterns of paints that Nippon should be launching. The next one is new revenue streams. This is one of my favorite. US Cellular, which probably is one of the less known telco players in US, was largely penetrated in the suburban parts of the country. With the large players like the AT&Ts and the Verizons, which had the largest market share of the rapidly growing economies in the big cities. US Cellular had to redefine itself. The advantage that they had, which none of the big players had, was their access to suburban and rural parts of US, and which is where the agriculture and the livestock was in heavy existence. And what they did was they created a cloud-based strategy to help use the combination of variables, clouds, and AI to capture various aspects pertaining to livestock and agriculture, and use that as a service to help improve the yield, to help improve the longevity of the livestock, to help improve the overall productivity, of the agriculture industry. This was a revenue model that US Cellular had not thought of, but this has become so big that it almost contributes to almost 15% of the overall revenue that US Cellular is witnessing today. This is another example. This is a completely new business model. Who thought that somebody who makes toothbrush, could actually play a very important role in the insurance industry? The US industry of insurance is massive, of which the dental insurance is roughly around $30 to $40 billion. It takes a lot of money if you would get a root canal surgery done in US. But here again, what the toothbrush company did was, through the combination of sensors, captured the various aspects of people's behavior when it came to brushing. The amount of time, the number of times they brushed their teeth, the duration of brushing, what were the movements of the brush, and all of this information was getting captured, of course, non-identifiable, for different types of brushes that were distributed. This information was then used to capture various behaviors of individuals at location. People staying near Racecourse Road likely will have a higher propensity for a dental claim because of these habits. And that information was then monetized to the insurance players to help decide on the kind of premiums that should be applied when it comes to dental insurance. Again, a totally new and innovative way of business model, powered by a combination of IoT and AI, which has helped Beam to create a significantly large part of revenue stream through a fairly expansive dental insurance business. The next one is creating a brand new ecosystem. This is an example of what Cisco is doing globally across multiple countries with the advent of IoT, which is connecting numerous types of machines, equipments. Here is an example of what a networking player could do in terms of creating smart factories, smart cities, smart ecosystem, whether it is looking at just one building and providing value-added services pertaining to the utilization of utility, your water, your natural gas, the quality of the air, or whether it is providing the solutions to people in the factories to determine the overall utilization of the assets, workforce, asset maintenance, or looking at the entire city, whether it is infrastructure, waste management, use of natural resources, or even utilities. All of this pre-packaged, available as a smart city solution, which is why the valuation of some of these players is skyrocketing because of the capabilities that they have and the type of differentiated services they could offer, through the combination of disruptive technologies powered by AI. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of all the things that is possible, through AI. I'm not sure if there's anything else, that would really matter, to an MD or a CEO of a company. If you can get these things covered, I would say that every single MD would love you for what you're doing it, because you're almost addressing the top KRAs. Do I have a business which is generating consistently strong, profitable growth? Do I have a business which can diversify into new areas? Do I have a business which can create new revenue streams? Do I have a business which is run, in a risk-averse manner and is aware of all the possible, threats that it could face? All that could be powered, through the power of data. And again, the path to this is Herculean. The path to this takes time. And what I would leave with you are 5 things that perhaps would be required for organizations and corporations to get the most out of data. The first, of course, is enhancing the sphere of influence. What that means, essentially, every data has the level of influence that it can generate. Now, the influence of the data depends on our ability to get the maximum out of it. Now, if you're looking at data only from a marketing standpoint, its influence is only marketing. But if you were to combine this data through the data with sales or through the data with R&D, now the opportunity of expanding the sphere of influence is beyond just a function to an enterprise level. If you start looking at partnerships of data between your firm and some other firm where there's a win-win situation. Now the sphere of influence is much bigger, which was the example that we saw between Trulia and OpenAPI, point of interest data, or USPS data along with Directv. So look at the sphere of influence. What is it that the data can do for my business? What is it that the data could do for an adjacency business, which is non-competing in nature, but the power of the two could give me a differentiated advantage. The next one, people talk about more data, more data. I think it starts with first maximizing the value of the data that is there in my own environment. Unless I truly maximize the value of the information that is available to me, I will not be able to create the utility of this information that I can offer to somebody else. So before we go about stitching together big data everywhere, I think we should start with small data, or whatever data that I have in it. So the second most important is value the fishbowl, value the goldfish that is there in your fishbowl. Right? The third is think big. Sometimes you don't realize the potential of the data. And we keep talking about data being the new oil. We keep talking about data being the big asset. Data clearly has the opportunity to disrupt. Data, if harnessed well, with the possibilities it can generate in terms of new insights, new business models, requires a very big, bold thinking approach towards it. Of course, when you do that, you also have to start small. It has to be started with the right set of pilots, which look at the predictive power of the data, which look at the application of the data, which has the sponsorship that is required for you to be able to harness the data to its fullest potential before you actually call it a big success or before you start leveraging it to the fullest potential. And the last but not the least, every single effort that you aspire to pursue has to be tied to the value. Because if there's no value attached to it, then it becomes an academic exercise. And corporations look at value and valuation. And without the two of these metrics, the effort would be futile. Thank you.
Hi, this is Mashwita. So when it is a data-driven analytics, so typically data is a very staple factor here. So how is the authentication of the data ensured here? Specifically the case you take about Beam, which is a brush company. So is that the customer will take time or interest to give the feedback about the toothbrush she is using, or after using how he's feeling in terms of the oral hygiene? So my question is that how the authentication of the data is ensured here?
I think it's an important point. DQ equals to DV. So any data which we are looking at generating value has to have data quality. And to me, quality is not only about the authentication, it is authentication, the accuracy, the coverage, the timeliness, the refreshness and all. The concept here is to incentivize the customers to be able to share this information. So when you're selling a Beam toothbrush, you incentivize the customer saying that, look, if you are willing to share this information, which is anonymized, we will provide you tips for you to improve the longevity of your, we'll give you tips on dental hygiene, which will improve the longevity of your gums, which will help you reduce your premiums, your insurance premiums. So there has to be a win-win situation. The firm, Beam in this case, provided that incentive to the customer for them to be able to share the information because there was a value proposition for the customer as well. And that information, if non-anonymized, was of significant value to Beam, which they were able to create as a utility for the insurance players. And insurance players today don't have much information about the history of an individual that is coming in for a dental hygiene. Okay.
Yeah, excuse me.
Aditya Birla Group is in fertilizer business and all. I see a lot of opportunities in the areas of farming, where you can do a disease spread, which you can avoid in the fertilizer, in the farming industry and things like that. Is anything in that direction which you guys are doing?
There is opportunities everywhere. There's opportunities in the whole overall agriculture sector. There's opportunities in terms of using the combination of drone, powered through AI, to improve the crop yield. There's an opportunity in terms of leveraging the sensors for us to give more real-time insights in terms of the right time for, reaching out to the farmers in terms of the quantity and the type of fertilizers that we should look at. There's opportunity for us in looking at the satellite imagery to understand what is the likelihood of the crop yields that we will get season over season. There's also an opportunity for us to understand whether a particular crop would witness surplus or otherwise, and what should be the pricing around it, and how could we help the farmers to have the adequate financing when it comes to a non-favorable year. many, many opportunities. This is just one of the many sectors you're talking about. And if you're interested and intrigued about it, come and join us.
Yeah, this is regarding what you said about the valuation.
Yeah.
And the valuation is related to the data quality, and data quality is related with the actual end user customer experiences. So how do you generate enough customer confidence so that they can share the data a priori, so that you can tailor-make or personalize solutions or outcome-based strategies for them?
So I think first is valuation comes from value. There are organizations that we saw which are commanding significant valuations, but today are not profitable. Ideally, the valuation is commanded through a combination of value and innovation. Most of the valuations that we see is coming through innovation as opposed to positive numbers or profitability. And the value comes from the quality of the data that we talked about. And your question is, how do we look at consumers to share the information? Again, my answer will be the same. It has to be mutually beneficial to the consumers when it comes to sharing the information. More importantly, I think consumers look at organizations that are trustworthy. They can trust that their information would not be compromised. They want to be in control. Even if I may know 5 things about you, I don't want somebody else to make a decision. I want choice and I want control. As long as organizations understand that you're providing an ecosystem which is trustworthy, you're providing an ecosystem where the consumer is in control, and you're providing an ecosystem where you're not saying, please watch Sholay, as opposed to, if you want to watch action, here are 3 things that you may want to watch. As long as you're giving them choices, I think customers and consumers will be happy to share that information with you.